What up, guys? Welcome back. Sorry for not having done these in a minute. I'm going to do a reaction to some sales live approaches today. And we're going to look at Braxton Hatch and a sale that he got in Atlanta a few weeks ago. And man, shout out to Braxton and his team. These guys have been absolutely killing it. And to everyone, really. If you go look at my Instagram, you'll see like we had probably 150 people we could have recognized last week with as good of a sales performance as everybody's been having. But I narrowed it down to, it was like 60 or something like that. So I have to go check that out. And I've got a lot more recognition coming this week. We're going to get right into it. I'm going to go over this approach and I haven't watched this at all. So I'm going to be reacting to it live and dissecting some of the things that I think Braxton does well. I'll point out things that I think he could do differently. So no offense, Braxton, if I do point any of those things out. Braxton is just absolutely killing it right now. So if you are already doing as well as you're doing, and then there's things that I can find to help tweak it, I think you can get up to even doing more, obviously. So that's the goal. That's the idea. I think these videos or this type of training is really useful because you get to see like how the sales approach actually looks live. And then there's a way that on the last one, if you watched that I did with Cole, I kind of did a live like role play as if I was selling the customer and a couple things I would do differently to tweak it. So check out that video. It's one of the previous ones I just did. My hair looks like I just got out of the shower, mostly because I kind of did. But it's still drying, obviously. Just like freaking crazy. Yeah, we got a haircut a couple weeks ago, and it looks like a modeling Johnny Depp or something. Okay, let's get right into this. Here we go, Braxton. And again, I haven't seen any of this, so I hope it's good. I know it is because he sold the guy or girl. I'm not sure who it is actually. Let's check it out.
How you doing? Good to see you. Sorry to bother you.
I'm just going to make sure the sound is actually coming through here. I'm pretty sure that it is, but I just want to make sure. Let's see. Nope, not quite. All right, so here we go. I'm just going to add the sound in really fast. It'll take me just a second, and then we'll be ready to roll. Okay, so it needs to come in through audio for OBS. Okay, let's try that.
What?
Boom, we're live. Okay, so I do want to notice how when he goes to the door,
How are you doing?
he's approaching calmly because the person opening the door is acting very timid right away, which is always a good thing. You want to mirror the person that's opening the door. It's going to help you get in.
Good to see you. Sorry to bother you.
Now, good to see you. Sorry to bother you. That, like saying the words "sorry to bother you," that's never a good way to put yourself in a position of like power on the doorstep. But if you're an experienced sales rep, it actually helps kind of soften the approach and just say like, "Hey, I'm here and I'm not, doing anything crazy. I actually apologize for bothering you," and it helps people put their guard down. But if you're not experienced and not good at like being able to diffuse situations generally or matching people's tone, then you probably don't want to say that. But Braxton can do it really well, and it actually plays to his favor because he's so confident as it is. Couple of things here. Just notice how as she is kind of hiding behind the door, Braxton is opening. If you look at his body language here, he's nice and open. And always, this is what we talk about, right? Where like you want to have your body language just express that I'm not afraid to be on your doorstep. In fact, I feel very comfortable here. So I'm going to have leaning in on one foot if possible. Although he's kind of standing straight up here, but like the extended arm with chest up, shoulders back, tall head, that gives you the impression that gives the person the impression that you're talking to that you're confident and that you're not afraid to be there. If you were afraid to be there, you'd be more closed, crossing arms, legs, like kind of like more closed off. But having that open body language shows I'm not afraid. And I go into the psychology of that, even some evolutionary psychology, which is really interesting of like why that universal message is always being portrayed to people if you're open in their presence, and why it's being portrayed the opposite, not confident, timid, fearful, if you do the opposite, which is being closed off. So already off the bat, really good body language here. This is something that your body language speaks way louder than the actual words that you're saying. Mix a really confident and open body language with very good paraverbals, and that's the way to sell anyone. It almost doesn't matter what you say, but when you add in a good script, it's killer.
So what we're doing is just keep preparing a couple of days tomorrow. We're just doing a promotion half off for the rest of the days.
These arm movements are always really good when you're trying to emphasize something. So notice how I just want to point this out, especially like for rookies watching. And if you're struggling at any time of the day to get the sales that you want or to keep people's attention, pay attention to your body language and the message that you're communicating. It's likely that if you're struggling to get the sales that you want, that you're being shifty and communicating timidity and fearfulness. So the opposite is what Braxton is communicating. He's communicating confidence, openness, not fearful whatsoever. So if you watch his body language here, he only does a couple movements is all. Let's just watch it really fast. I'm actually going to turn the sound off here. Does this one movement, and he's holding his hand up almost the entire time. Still keeps his hand up. It's like moving slightly, but it's very natural. And then when he says, I'm doing it half off, that's when he brings it down and does kind of this like karate chop. That's a good way. If you can do that naturally, that's a very good way to emphasize the hook. So if you have a really good hook, which a good hook is always like an offer that you can give somebody that's compelling to listen to. They don't know what they're getting quite yet. They just are compelled to keep listening because it has something that's almost too good to refuse, right? If you can add in on top of that hook, the verbal part of the hook, a body language gesture or motion that communicates emphasis, that's always going to be really powerful. So whenever I teach rookies how to sell, and especially in their first few weeks of selling, but definitely this time of the sales season, when people start to get complacent. We are in the complacency phase of the sales season where it is very easy to get complacent. I'm always going to teach rookies to go back to the basics, and even experienced reps that start going through a rut. Go back to the basics and only do 2 movements in your intro. So you have wide open body language here. I'm always going to teach the point because that's going to be the thing that like really communicates that confidence and openness, right? As I keep talking about. And then the second one, a good second movement is some sort of like emphasis or like, if I can fit you in, it's well over half off. You know, some people, whatever your move is for certainty, if you watch Jordan Belfort, he always does this thing here. He talks about how that anchors his certainty anytime he's talking in a tone, or he calls them tonalities, modeling NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, or a paraverbal set of confidence and surety, certainty, which definitely a hook is going to have that. You always have a body language motion that kind of mimics it. That anchors your paraverbals. So if you watch, that's what Braxton does here. He has something very similar. Wide open stance, as you can see here. And then he comes down and does that little karate chop right there. And that's going to be his like hook. So you can keep talking if someone's not really engaging with you. It's always good to keep talking because that hook is going to add some emphasis to build into the next part of your sale. But sometimes when you do the hook, you can just say, and listen, if I can fit you in while I'm already here, because I actually am doing services for, I've signed up 20 people in the last day and a half. I can do it for well over half off. And then you just sit and stand stoic and you wait. You play the sales game. You just wait till the next person, till that person responds. Or if they're not really engaging with you and you can tell after a couple of seconds, you can ask a question to get them to engage. So what do you guys do right now for the pest control? And let's see what Braxton does here.
What?
That's actually exactly what it does. I didn't realize that. So, and then he's going to step in right away and keep engaging because she didn't quite understand him. So now he's going in, and I'm just narrating what I see from his body language here. Again, notice his body language here still. I'm going to zoom in just a tiny bit. You can see how, as she is still timid and fearful a bit, because I'm categorizing that's how people interact with you when you're in a cold call situation. Very rarely is someone going to be like, more alpha and like imposing. They're going to actually be more like timid in the sense and fearful in the sense of like, what are you doing here? What am I engaging in right now? Not in a dangerous way or anything, but just fearful from the point of engagement. So he steps in, which is really good. He sees that she's not quite interacting with him. And so he steps in, which is very powerful because now you're on their same team already.
Doing a promotion half off for the rest of the days. What?
What?
So right here.
Really good, because most people would ask this question again and stay in the same place, but Braxton sees that she didn't quite understand, so he's going to step in, and especially you can hear it's a little windy, right? So he steps in, and now he's going to be able to demonstrate. It's always good if you have, I carry around like a laminated price sheet that lets me hand it to customers, which I just started doing this year when I was knocking. But I've always done this with the iPad too. So notice his body language again, very calm and relaxed, and he's now showing her, demonstrating what we will be able to do on the service because she didn't quite understand. It's smart just to step in and do that once you realize that they don't quite understand. Being really assumptive. You guys are probably getting some of the fire ants, and he's like holding up, kind of demonstrating that what that is.
So since we're taking care of your neighbors,
This is a little hard to hear, but pay close attention because he's going to go back and do this hook again. That's at least what it sounds like. Let's see. Yeah, so he kind of does it again. He's like, now listen, I'm taking care of a bunch of people here. If I can fit you in, it's going to be half off, or it's really cheap. And my assumption is the reason why he's doing that again is because he's just gauging that she probably didn't understand the first time, maybe because it's windy or because she doesn't speak English. And if for some reason she doesn't speak English, which is oftentimes common. I mean, there's neighborhoods in Atlanta where we were knocking, because they're in Atlanta right now, where we were knocking that like everybody spoke some Chinese or Japanese or Spanish or Arabic, or like there's just pockets of neighborhoods where everyone speaks a different language. And so it's hard to tell sometimes if people were speaking English or not. There are ways to sell to anyone, no matter what. And so what Braxton is gauging is like, if I say this again, will you understand what I'm saying? Or was it because it was just too windy? And right now, really, you're in this stage of still qualifying the buyer. And I'm curious to see what he does here.
so for you, $99. What was your name? I'm sorry. Rabir? So Rabir, what we like to do, most companies, when you're getting this, we're going to give a simple 2-foot mandate spread.
I like how he, again, gave her another reason to keep listening. He actually gave her some more factual information about how much it'd be. Like, it's $100 if I can fit you in while we're already here. And then asked her name to get her engaged again. This is a good tactic. Again, if people are not giving you the time of day, it's a good tactic to just gauge how much they're going to interact with you. Give a statement, something that's compelling, maybe a nice, strong thesis or a strong hook, and then that kind of builds tension and emphasis. But if you're still at the beginning of the sale and you're trying to qualify the buyer, which is exactly what Braxton is doing right now, then ask a question right after it. So I might say, hey, sorry to bug you, but I'm treating a few people in the area right now. Who do you guys use for the pest control? Oh, I'm good. I'm not interested. Totally fine. And really, everybody loves what I do, because not only are we going to do 3 to 4 times the work, minimum is what we're seeing with all of our customers and their experience, but people are actually loving the new treatment method that we just applied. So have you guys been treated recently by your company? So I'm going to say something compelling and then ask a question. That's not maybe exactly what I would ask, but the point is the same, that if I can continue that pattern until they start engaging with me, that's how I get in with way more people than I normally would have that would just shut me down and I'd walk away from. You can gauge, 50 to 60% more people will actually listen to you, and you can see if they're really truly qualified buyers if you do that at the beginning. As a tactic of engagement to like build trust and rapport. Because remember what the things you're trying to do in the first steps of the sale. You're trying to build rapport and show that you're sharp, enthusiastic, professional, you know what you're doing, you can solve their problems. Then you're trying to do fact finding and build further rapport, then build value, gain their trust through building value, since you've already built rapport with them and you've found facts that are relevant to, qualifying them as a buyer and seeing if it's good to even be selling to them. Now that you have that info, it's time to give value and give price and close for the first time. So really, still here in this part of the sale with Braxton, we're in this phase of, he's kind of in fact finding / qualifying the buyer, which all is going to be part of rapport at the beginning, building rapport. And until she actually starts engaging, there is no rapport and there is no sale. So he's really in the process of getting that engagement. And now he's just going to go straight into telling them what they do.
So what we like to do, Rabbi, is we actually start our service with research. So what we do is we warranty you guys for the year, no bucks. So that first treatment, like I said,
come tomorrow. Yeah, you get this separate one. It's for 1 year.
1 year.
No, makapag.
Okay, so now she's even asking some buying questions, right? And some people ask buying questions and you're like, I don't know if they're actually asking buying questions or if it's just kind of maybe culturally what they do. So oftentimes I've found that if I'm knocking in demographic of like maybe East Asian demographic, then I am probably going to get people that more like to barter and go back and forth on price. And I just know that culturally, those might be the things that I'm going to run into. And so I'm going to get the price right away so that I can get that out of the way and actually start negotiating a little bit. And I don't think that that's either good nor bad. Some people complain about that, but that's something that is really easy to not only deal with, but actually still give value to any type of customer if you just are willing and prepared to go straight into the things that they, typically like to do. And I don't have any problem with that. I think that that's great. But that may be one of the reasons why he's getting to price here is because if she asks a buying question right away that may or may not be an actual buying question, now he can get into negotiating a bit and seeing if they really actually want it.
So, great question. I'll show you this right here. Your first treatment is called the initial. We're going to take care of everything outside, inside.
I do like this idea of explaining exactly what you do right away. This is a little unconventional for me. I think I'd really try to give a little more value and check in and see what she's thinking first. But since she asked a buying question, like, so you do it for a year, so what do you guys do again? Then you know that there might be some interest there.
Spiders up here as well.
Yes.
No more. So we'll take care of all of those for you guys inside as well. And then
explaining it really simply. Obviously, she's engaging so she can communicate with him well, but he's explaining it simply enough so that he can now get to the value points that would be beneficial for her and her family.
Here we come 4 times quarterly throughout the year, and that's usually $159. Since we're already in the area, we'll give you a discount, Ravi. It's only $129.
Okay, how much?
Yep. So for tomorrow, it's $99, and that's for everything.
Everyone loves a discount. Now so he goes into price again, gives a discount on the recurring treatments, and she asks again what the price is. So at this point, if someone is asking a price-based question 2 or 3 times right away, and it's this early into the sale, you know that there's probably a pressing need, something that they actually want it, and it's for a specific reason. So this would be a buyer that is in pain, most likely. Someone who maybe has a current solution, but that's just not working actually. So like they have a service set up to take care of whatever problem. It's supposed to be their solution, but it's not actually working. Those are the types of people that are asking price-based questions right away because they just want to know like, okay, how much does it cost? Because if it's worth it, I'm going to take care of it and do it actually,
$100, $99 for everything. 99 sounds better than 100.
No, how much is only 100? Yeah.
Only 100. Yes.
Huh?
Yeah, that's for everything.
What time you come?
I'll show you this.
So, and then she's like, what time do you come tomorrow?
So Jared's your guys' technician, right here. And so I was gonna see if I could save you guys.
All house, yeah.
Oh, of course. Of course. Are you getting the wasp up
Yes,
there?
I have. That's why.
Okay, so this is one thing I also want to point out too, is like from the very beginning, Braxton has been hitting on an issue that they have that's visible. And so he's been pointing it out. Spiders, no more, right? I have the spiders up here. We're going to take care of your spiders. And so then he says, you guys have been getting the wasps. He's really just checking in again to kind of solidify this sale. And she's like, yes, and spiders. Says spiders again.
Inside. Okay.
This is always something like that's good to do. I kind of like doing the opposite, just like, but I do like this though. So it depends on what the game is. Like, if you're trying to build urgency, sometimes it's a good idea to act really surprised if they have a problem already. So you can say like, really, you guys have spiders inside? Yeah, that is unacceptable. Like, I can't believe that. I need to take care of that now. Because it kind of watches like, he's being a little more exaggerative with his body language because, again, making sure the communication is very clear. So he says,
Yes, I have. Spider.
Inside.
Spider.
Okay. So
I'm spider
right here,
inside,
this is-
and he's
I
like,
saved the 9 o'clock for you guys. 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock is okay. You guys are seeing the spiders, the wasps. Did you see cockroaches also?
okay, now this is really good because he's going to go into doing an agreement close. Again, if I get a sale that's like this quick. I'm going to point out here in just a second like why I think the sale was so fast. And it's not just because it was an easy lay down, as they say, or like a gimme sale. It's because Braxton did a lot of things right with his body language in the beginning. That's why this was an easy sale. At least that's why it appears easy. But so he's now going to do an agreement close. If I ever get a sale this quick, I'm always actually kind of a little worried and second guessing whether or not I'm actually solid with the sale. So when I go through the agreement, that's when I'm going to just really solidify everything and go through features and benefits and give value as I'm signing them up. But if they're a buyer that is in pain, that is actually wants the service right away, just like this person, and you've done a good enough job to win their trust, then doing the agreement close is really going to solidify that sale. So the agreement closes once they've already agreed, or at least they've reasonably agreed because they're asking what time and they know what the price is and all that. Now, every step of the agreement, I'm going to go through and say like, okay, so what types of bugs are you seeing? And because that's relevant information that I need to take down for the technician when they actually service the home, have that congruency of service, right? Okay, great. Well, just so you know, so for that, I'm going to do this, this, and this. Okay, and so you guys have any fruit trees, garden in the back? Okay, yeah, well, listen, just make sure that you have a dog though, right? Yeah, make sure you keep the dog in. The dog can go out right after we're done treating, but we just want to make sure that he's not going to eat our technician. Ha ha ha. Okay, so yeah, blah blah blah. But you see how everything I'm asking specific questions so that I can have congruency of service from the technicians to the office, while at the same time I'm solidifying the sale by giving value and features and benefits throughout. That's really important to do, especially when you have a quick sale and you're not quite sure how solid it is. And in this case, that's how I would be feeling. I'm like, well, I know that I probably did some things right. That's why people were agreeing, but I'm not quite sure how solid it might be, so I'm going to go through an agreement close. I want to point out, though, I'm not going to go through the rest of this just because I haven't watched what that agreement close even looks like and want to just stay away from any information that might be sensitive there that we got. Although I know Bjorn edited this before, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to come back to something here that I want to point out. So I had when I was, I'm going to tell you a story real quick. All right. So when I was knocking my first summer, cold calling, knocking doors every day, we were in Virginia. We were in Alexandria, Virginia. Okay. And I was not being an Idaho boy / New Mexico boy where most everyone you grow up around is super nice, very friendly, hospitable culture. I did not feel that was the case as I was knocking on the East Coast. It seemed to me like everyone was in a massive hurry. Always in a rush, and it was just like very cutthroat. That's kind of how I felt like it was. And so I felt like I was going to war every day, and that I had to gear up for any given door I knocked. Someone was going to tell me, F off, get off my property. Why don't you go get a real job? I would never have my son do something as like dirty as what you're doing right now. Like just very like vicious interactions with people is what I felt like it was oftentimes. And then I realized as I got better at sales that I was the one bringing those interactions upon myself, but that's just kind of how it felt my first summer. So I'm having a really good week, and my team leader, or one of my team leaders, wants to come and work with me and go out knocking with me. So he comes to shadow me, right? I just gotten a sale right before he got to my area, and then we go out and we start knocking. So as we're knocking, the second door that I knocked, he wasn't that old. He was maybe 60, but he was kind of like a spry guy. You could tell he was like really just an active person, like pretty fit. But he was really confident. He's almost like ex-military or something. But he opens the doors like, what do you want? And so here I am. I'm like just feeling good, right? I'm like, hey man, my name is Hayden. I'm out here. I manage Moxie. It's the pest control. You probably see my trucks in the area. The reason I'm stopping by is because I've got a ton of people signed up for service this week who are really enjoying it. If I can fit you in, I'm doing it for well over half off. I just did a basic what's cheap, half off, hook, normal, like I'm in the area servicing people, which we were, hook, and then hooking, that's how, just the normal intro I was doing. So the guy kind of like gears up like this. I'll never forget this. He had a really big front yard, very, very nice property. I'm sure looking back now, it was probably $1 million plus property even then in 2014. Which, would probably be like 3 or 4 million right now. But he kind of rears up like this. I can remember the red brick and everything. Rears up like this. And he's like, so how much? And I'm like, I got a buying question after the hook, which I know I'm in, right? I'm like, well, good question. So I step in. I'm like, what's the square footage of your home? And I say it like that, like, authoritatively because I'm giving back to him how he's treating me, which is like, yeah, tell me how much it costs. I'm here to do business. And I'm like, I'll tell you how much it costs. What's the square footage of your house? Type of feel, right? So he gives me the square footage, it's like 5,000 or something like that. I'm like, well, listen. So normally for a home your size, it's this much. After that, I come out once every 3 months, customized seasonal treatments. I didn't used to say that back then, but after that, I come out 3 months. I do remember, though, in my price, in my first and second year, I was sick of people saying, is it just a one-time treatment instead of a plan, right? They didn't want, I was almost drawing out my own objection of like not that it wasn't a subscription service. So I started saying really thoroughly, I come out once every 3 months, so it's seasonally. It's a quarterly treatment, say like 3 times in a row. Those are just, $149 or whatever, $159, $169. I don't remember what it was. But listen, since my guy's already here, like I said, we are treating this person, this person, this person. I like showed him and I distinctly remember that this was like probably a guy that wanted to know who we were servicing in the area or whatever. This doing this person, this person, this person. Sign up, 15 people in the last couple of days. If I can fit you in while I'm with them, I can take $100 off. And we were really trying to go for high initials, and that's kind of what I was known for in my office that year. $100 off, do everything for just $149. And that's still the full service. Does that sound fair? And that was always my close. Does that sound fair? So I would do, and that's for everything. Does that sound fair? And he kind of like puts his head back a little bit. Yeah, his arms folded like this, leans in a little bit more, looks at it even longer, and he's like, okay, let's do it. And I was just feeling so good that day that I just was like, I didn't second guess whether he wanted it or not. I'm like, are you sure? Because it was just like an easy sale. So I just went through the paperwork, signed him up. It turned out it was even a switch over. He had a company that he switched over to use us instead, and didn't say anything about them. Just really liked what I had to say as I was going through the agreement. Told him a few things that we would do, and then we walked away. And as we were walking away, my team leader's like, dude, wish I would have taken that door. That was such a gimme. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? That was not a gimme. The reason why that guy responded so favorably to me is because my body language was excellent and because my paraverbals were on point. I was like ultra confident, and I mirrored him perfectly, mimicked exactly the way that he was talking to me, talking that way back to him. But what my leader that year did not understand was that there really are no such things as gimmies. There is no such thing as an easy sale. You make it easy because of the way that you talk to people. You make sales hard because of the way that you talk to people as well. And so the lesson that I learned, and that I was just so stubborn that I refused to believe that it was just an easy sale. I always had this feeling like I am in control of how people respond to me. And now I'm not in control of like the choices that they make, but I am in control at a far greater level than I think of how people actually respond. So if I can line up the right things and learn this game of like the human psychology of persuasion and influence and how people respond when they're being persuaded, what makes people tick and actually make buying decisions? How do you get people to take action? By persuading them. If you can just learn those natural laws and line them up, that's what makes sales look easy. So as I'm looking back at this, because even now my first thought was like, oh, that was like a pretty easy sale. My natural mind goes to that. But as I'm thinking about it, like, no, look at everything that he did well. So let me point this out again. The majority of the things that he did well that made this look like an easy sale are his body language and how he mimicked the person and like kind of came down to their level from a paraverbal standpoint. If you look at his body language right from the get-go, so like the person opens the door, isn't coming out right away, he steps in already, and then like getting closer to them so that they can hear, and then has his perfect body language, nice and open, very inviting. Also, for a little tip here is like when you're talking to women, you want to be squared up to them. So like if a woman's facing you, you want to be directly facing them. It builds trust. If you're talking to a man, however, you want to be at an angle because squared up is confrontational. Being at an angle is friendly. But with women, they don't care whether they're confrontational or friendly. It just is more trustworthy if you're being straight up versus standing to the side, psychologically speaking. There's a couple of studies that have been done on this that are really interesting. I'll have to look them up and show you. But anyway, so what he's doing here, first of all, off the bat, in very good body language. When she can't hear, so then he does this like little karate chop, right? When she can't hear, he immediately steps in to cater to her. Now she's even a little more open than she was before. So still talking, demonstrating, right? Gets more simple with his words and still maintains that very confident, laid back body language, making it very easy to talk to him. That's, for me, how this sale seemed so easy, is because of all the things that Braxton did right. Now, you couple the things that Braxton did right with whatever pain somebody is in right now that's making them want to make a buying decision rather than not, and you set yourself up for, when you do that on every doorstep, you're going to get 4 to 5 sales. Every single day you'll close. It'll just seem easy. Because I don't care what anybody says. If you have easy sales, and let's say you talk to 100 people a day, and you've got 5 of those people who are going to be really easy to sign up, you will blow those 5 sales every day, and you'll just ruin them if you don't have good body language. If you're not confident, happy, and professional, you'll blow it. People will not sign up with you. You'll ruin their trust. It still takes trust in order for someone to make a buying decision, even if they are a buyer in pain. So then when you can do that well and add on all the scripting principles we talk about here, and then perfect your body language and your transitions, your objections, how you close, that's what's going to make it so that you get that 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 a day. And then above there is really just everything in the back half of the sale. Really, anything after 7 sales a day is perfecting the back half of your sale. Because when you're really feeling it and really on point with your body language and how you're talking to people, you're going to create a situation for yourself where 5 to 7 of your buyers every day just seem really easy. And you won't even have to go into objections in the back half of the sale. You just demolish the objections with the way you're talking before they even come out. And then really those high numbers, 7+ a day, that's going to come from really mastering the smoothness of the transitions in the back half of the sale, deflecting objections on the first objection, mastering your close, making sure that your value proposition is really actually powerful, and that you're communicating confidently with the customer in the way that you interact with them, not even just in the statements that you say, but in how you ask them questions, making sure that they respond voluntarily, checking in, etc. So this is a really good one. We're going to, this one will be the sale that I react to today. I've got one by Phil coming later this week too. And then if you guys have sales that you want me to react to, make sure you send them to me. I still got an incentive going, $50 per sale that you send to me that you want me to react to, and then $30 per not closed sale that you would like me to react to and see what you could have done to close it, which I'll start doing a couple of those here pretty soon. But tomorrow or the next time that I release a video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about mindset and how to get through the complacency phase mid-season, which is, I know it's weird. We had like a tiny dip in our sales rev, but then like this week has just been excellent. So I want to talk about how to avoid the complacency stage, because I don't feel like we're quite in it yet, but there will be a lull coming soon where you might feel the tendency to go get complacent if you're not feeling that already with your team. And I have the perfect solution to get out of it. So stay tuned for that. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel so that you can get these notifications, and then send this to someone that could benefit from this. Anybody could benefit from this that's not just doing door-to-door sales like our sales reps. But guys, I appreciate you watching. Thanks for bearing with me. As you can see, I've just been sleeping terrible lately. I have to get surgery again this week to see if, but by clearing up and straightening out my nose, as you can see, it's like freaking crooked, and it's just completely congested and closed off. If I can fix how I'm sleeping, because I think a lot of the, health and mental problems I've been having have come from just not sleeping super well. So we'll see. Hopefully that works out. And if you don't hear from me in a second, it's probably because I'm recovering from that surgery. But before that happens, I'm going to be releasing as much content as I can to help improve our sales training, or at least guide and direct people back toward the sales training that really is actually the best, which is in-house and Moxie U, the foundations modules. Again, if you haven't been through the back half of the foundations modules, like after the scripting portion where we talk about rewiring neural pathways, your belief systems, how to raise your standard of excellence, actually how to build focus in the short term on the in sales interactions and on the doors, that stuff is really powerful, showing up as your best self. So look out for that, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.